showing a little bit of the Port Authority bus terminal. There are a lot of people coming in on buses, although there were like only 4 people on my bus this morning. And I've also been the only person on the bus sometimes. This is 2 days after Election Day, so it's November 5th, 2020. It's Thursday morning around 7:30. One thing is if you're not used to using this station, it's really important to come here to the information booth right off of 8th Avenue to find out where your gate is. Otherwise, I've seen people, including myself, get hopelessly lost when you first try to figure out the system here. It's not a good system. And so this is 8th Avenue, where you come out. This is the main entrance of the Port Authority. Right across from the New York Times building. It's a statue of Jackie Gleason as Ralph Cramden from the old show from the 50s, The Honeymooners. All black and white. And welcome to New York. This is Penn Station, where the Long Island Railroad and Amtrak come in. It's actually not really the station. This is really the station over here underneath Madison Square Garden. But this is an old post office that they want to convert into the future train station. But we'll go in here where it's closer to the train tracks and platforms. This is where the original Penn station was built, that looked kind of like the post office. Then they knocked it down and built Madison Square Garden and office buildings over it. This is the...
Attention please. This is the last call for New Jersey Transit 749
Amtrak into the station. Also, New Jersey Transit comes in here, the suburban trains. When I take the train, I usually go into Hoboken. Rarely come into Manhattan.
Boarding call for Amtrak Mississauga train 2109 en route to Washington with intermediate stops. Passengers should proceed
Stores and everything. I'll show you the next level. Just walk through a little bit more of the Amtrak part of the station before I show you the lower level where the Long Island Railroad and New Jersey Transit are. Waiting area through there. Used to have a big board where the numbers would flip and make a noise when it would update, but now it's all electronic. It just shows you the various places the trains go. Washington DC, Boston, and then a lot of New Jersey Transit trains that go to various suburbs of New Jersey. Let's walk down this corridor. Here's a escalator down to the track level. Actually, let's take it. What the heck? An Amtrak train, and that's a New Jersey Transit double-decker train. So we're walking east towards the 7th Avenue end of the station, which is where the Long Island Railroad's main gates are. Like 3 train stations in one. So there's one for Amtrak, there's one for New Jersey Transit. This is New Jersey Transit's area. And then there's another separate station for the Long Island Railroad. And then on top of that, there's subways that run north-south at each end of the station, the 7th Avenue line and the 8th Avenue line. So it's very multi-level. Reminds me of the main train station in Paris. Okay, let's go over to the Long Island part. Shows you various destinations for the Long Island, different lines. So it's 3 separate train stations, but they all use pretty much the same tracks.
Time is 7:55, all 4 track 1.
Although the Long Island uses mostly the northern tracks that come in east-west, and then Amtrak and New Jersey Transit use the southern east-west tracks. This area is being renovated, even though it was renovated not that long ago. This is the main east-west corridor that links all the different lines. Here's a 3D perspective, what I've been talking about. This is the artist renderings for a new entrance. into the station. They're always trying to make it nicer. Here's a main entrance to the 7th Avenue subway line. So we'll take the escalator or the stairs up to the street. This artwork is meant to represent the fallen columns of the old station. It's escalators to one of the office buildings that is built over the former Penn station. So this takes us up to 34th Street. Which is the main cross street by Penn Station. 34th Street between 7th and 8th Avenues. We're right near Macy's flagship store. All right, that's Penn Station. This is Grand Central Terminal at 42nd and Park Avenue. We're going to take a look inside. It's New York City's most elegant train station. And if you want to include bus stations, it's more elegant than the Port Authority bus terminal. It's the Grand Hyatt Hotel, which I think has recently been sold and is going to be redeveloped. Once owned by Donald Trump. He bought it when this area was not doing too well and people thought he was nuts. But he redeveloped it and it spurred the redevelopment of the whole area. Just like Disney did for Times Square. Okay, let me put my mask on. Jackie Kennedy Onassis had a lot to do with preserving the station. There was talk about knocking this station down and building office buildings over it, just like at Penn Station, which he mobilized forces. This is a former waiting room, and now it's a closed food hall. Sometimes they've used this for winter markets and different demonstrations of sporting events, like indoor handball, stuff like that. So here's the main area of Grand Central, and this is a real popular place to meet people at the clock in Grand Central. Everybody can find it. Even dogs like it. Now there's more scaffolding in here. This was renovated back in the 80s and 90s, but now it's receiving some kind of new phase of renovation. So there's balconies on each end with, well, formerly there were restaurants and bars, and formerly where these trailers are. That was a Michael Jordan's restaurant. Michael Jordan, the basketball star.
Soap and water and wash the cover your nose and mouth with your elbow when you cough or sneeze. Let's work together to keep our state healthy.
And then they built this balcony on the east end here to look exactly like the one built in the early 1900s on the west end. So they did a great job. I've seen like corporate Christmas parties held up here, and maybe it was a restaurant at one time, but everything's been suffering. These boards here show all the trains. So the red trains are the ones that go to Connecticut. And the blue trains are the ones that go up into central Westchester, the Harlem line. And then the green trains go up the Hudson line, up the Hudson River. And I've lived on both lines. And it's very quick. Like, I lived in White Plains, and it can be 29 minutes to White Plains, which is a good ways out, but it's an express train and they really move. And the Hudson line is the most picturesque line. Some great views all the way up. It's a neat line to ride on, just to take a ride if you're here out of town and you want to just visit and see some of the natural scenery. Just take the Hudson line up, go all the way up to they don't show it here, but the train that goes to Poughkeepsie stops at places like Garrison and Cold Spring and Beacon. They're all picturesque places on the east side of the Hudson. All right, let me show you where the trains come in. This is a double-decker train station. So the trains come in on 2 levels, and they're building a new part of the station so that the Long Island Railroad can bring most of their people into Grand Central too. And it's as delayed, and they've had as much cost overruns as the Berlin airport, but it's supposedly in the next couple of years the Long Island Railroad will come in. This is Metro North Railroad, another division of the MTA, Metropolitan Transportation Authority. And the Long Island will come in below the 2 levels, and they'll have their own 2 levels. Not as wide as this, just a couple of platforms, but still, it'll be a quadruple level train station. Now these trains are red, so that means they're going to Connecticut. Also, if you take Amtrak, you can't. It used to come out of Grand Central. It doesn't anymore. You have to go to Penn Station. But if you take Amtrak up to Boston, there's some scenic parts to that as it goes along the eastern Connecticut, Rhode Island shoreline. More Connecticut trains. They tend to be more on this end, but they sometimes you. Okay, before, when I was here at Grand Central, my card filled up, so I needed to get a new SD card for my camera. So that brings me back to Grand Central here at night. I just wanted to cover the lower level to show basically a lot of restaurants that are vacant now, have gone out of business because of the pandemic. Looking up and down 42nd Street. Gotta put my mask on. 5 p.m. So normally this would be packed. With commuters going home.
Your attention, please. All luggage and parcels must be attended at all times. Any items left unattended will be removed by and subject to search by the MTA police. Thank you for your cooperation.
So it's a beautiful setting at night. I think they built all that scaffolding today, earlier in the day. They're running normal train service to the suburbs, and some of the trains are pretty full. It's pretty much like normal, even though it seems less crowded overall. But they're running the normal service even with less passengers, just to sort of keep more social distancing between commuters. Just wanted to show you the food hall, which was put in here in the 90s. Kind of taking an idea from the Toronto train station. So it's not, a lot of the stalls aren't open, but you can get fresh seafood there. And you can get alcohol and wine. So I was mentioning before, there's 2 levels of trains right now, and there will be 4. So the only reason to go down here now is to catch a train, because there's no restaurants that are open. Tracks 100 to 117. So see, all these restaurants are closed. Almost all closed. Magnolia Bakery, they're open. But some of these places weren't open earlier.
I know they got Chinese of the
This was always supposed to be like a big ice cream bar. I don't know if that ever took off. But more empty food stalls down that way. Just to show you, there's train tracks down here, showing you all the towns that the different trains go to. And we'll go back up the stairs to the main station. Oh, I wanted to show one other place. It's the view of the galaxy, all the constellations. Shows you different lines, different stops. Lots of ticket vending machines. It's easy to figure out. So we'll go down this ramp here.
No, don't give me these.
That was part of the original station. These ramps were built, I think, for passengers to bring their heavy luggage up ramps from the trains below when there was intercity train traffic. So this restaurant closed recently due to the pandemic, the Oyster Bar. It's an iconic New York restaurant, and they didn't have an ability to do outdoor dining, but when the restaurants were allowed to open up to 1/4 capacity, they did. They tried, but they said they only got 1/10 of their normal customers, so it just wasn't enough to keep going. So they had to lay everybody off. But it seats several hundred people. It's a great place to get clams. Any kind of clams, if you're a clam connoisseur. All right, I'm gonna go back out on the street and go back to the Port Authority bus terminal just to show how to get on a bus in one of the world's most confusing terminals. In just a sec. Before, one thing that's key if you're a first-time user of the station is this information kiosk. There's only one. It's near the 42nd and 8th entrance. But you ask that guy what gate to go to. You tell him where you gotta go. He'll tell you how long till your next bus. There should be a better system, but at least there's always somebody at that information booth. So you come in on the ground level, and if you're going to catch an intercity bus, you go down. But if you're going to catch a suburban bus, you go up to either the 2nd, the 3rd, or the 4th floors. Most of the buses are on the 2nd floor, so the gates start with the number 2. So I just happen to know that my bus always leaves from the same gate, which is in the far corner of the main gate floor. Restrooms are closed. Restaurants can be open like it's either a quarter capacity or half capacity now. There's a lot of banks and stores. And they have clusters of gates. And I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to the proximity of the gates to each other. But where we go is down here. In a bowling alley here. There's another cluster. You go all the way to the very end. And it seems like nobody goes on my bus line, but when you get up here, then there's another line of people, usually. So now we're going up to the third level. And then at each gate they have multiple doors, which can be confusing. But usually you go till the end. Alright, I'm gonna go. And I'll just show you the last major train station in New York. It's actually in Hoboken, New Jersey. And I've shown it in earlier videos, but this is getting off of a New Jersey Transit train in Hoboken. And from here you have to take either a light rail train to other parts of New Jersey, or a ferry, or a PATH subway to New York. Either Midtown or Lower Manhattan. It's a nice old station. Had an unfortunate accident a couple years ago where a train overran the N block and ran into the structure, causing a collapse, and then one woman from Brazil died. So that took a long time for them to fix that up. It's finally all fixed. And this is the main waiting room. It's beautiful in Hoboken. And there's ticket windows over there. There's also ticket machines that are easy to use. And in the old days, people would go to the ferry on 2 different levels, and you could walk up the stairs and get on the ferry at the upper level. But these days, the ferry is just on the lower level. I don't think they're as big. Still have a lot of people that can fit on them. So, this is the Hoboken train station. And it's beautiful stained glass ceiling, built in the early 1900s.